Hey everyone, welcome back to John's Watch. Today I'm going to be talking about a relatively new game called Lords of the Fallen. This was originally released on October 13th, 2023 on PC and current generation consoles, PS5 and whatever they call the Xbox nowadays. Its regular price is $79.99 Canadian, or your regional equivalent, and it's developed by Hexworks and published by CI Games. So there's a lot to talk about for me for this game. I was given a PS5 review code, so thank you very much to CI Games for letting me have a review code for the game. So all the footage you're going to see on screen during this video is all recorded on my PS5, so this video is just going to be a post-commentary video with some of my thoughts over various fairly early gameplay in the background. So like I said, this is Lords of the Fallen. This is obviously not to be confused with Lords of the Fallen. Or sorry, I guess it's now called Lords of the Fallen TM 2014. So very difficult to get them confused, I'm sure you can agree. Lords of the Fallen, the 2014 version, was really one of the very first Souls-likes. Very, very inspired by Dark Souls. And it was really, really bad. I think I played it for about half an hour before I realized I wasn't going to play it anymore, and that was like probably not too long after it released. Just bear in mind that by 2014, Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2 were already out at this point. So one of the very first Souls-likes didn't do well at all, people did not like it, but obviously the developers thought they had something with, I guess, just the name Lords of the Fallen. So here, in late 2023, they decided to reboot the game, which is why we now have two games called Lords of the Fallen, both Souls-likes, both published by CI Games. The 2014 Lords of the Fallen was developed by CI Games and also Deck 13, but the 2023 Lords of the Fallen, I'm just going to call it Lords of the Fallen for this video, otherwise it would get very repetitive, was, like I said, developed by Hexworks, who I believe is just a subsidiary of CI Games, so for all intents and purposes, mostly the same developers, technically. So this is a dark fantasy action RPG, very, very like Dark Souls. It's got the dark fantasy, medieval kind of environment and settings. It's very similar to Dark Souls in a lot of ways. It controls very similar. Like by default, the light attack is on right bumper, the heavy attack is on right trigger, or R2 or whatever. Parry is on, it's one of the left bumper trigger buttons. You press Y or triangle to two-hand, just like pre-Elden Ring games. So very easy to get to grips with the controls if you have played Dark Souls games before. A slight quirk is that in Dark Souls and Elden Ring, if you want to run, you hold the roll button, the B or circle button. In Lords of the Fallen, a decent change is that if you want to run, you just push in the left stick. Kind of nice just to have like a sprint toggle on. So that's a nice improvement, but annoyingly they kind of regressed in terms of the jump button. So obviously in Elden Ring, jump had its very own button, which was monumental. In Dark Souls 3, I guess, and in technically in most of the Dark Souls games, if you wanted to jump, you would have to be running, and then in Dark Souls 1, you would hit the roll button again, or in the later games and Dark Souls 1 Remastered, when you were running, you would click in the left stick to do a jump. In Lords of the Fallen, when you're running, you press the X or A button to jump. So a bit annoying that there's no dedicated jump button. I find it very difficult to go backwards from Elden Ring now that you've got that dedicated jump button, which you do not have in Lords of the Fallen. It's not really an issue in the Dark Souls games, there's not a ton of platforming. In Lords of the Fallen, there's a surprising amount of platforming, and the jump is such a minuscule, pathetic baby jump that all of the platforming sections are very frustrating, and there are more than one, more than you'd expect. So just controls-wise, didn't dig the jump additions. So on the surface, it does look very similar to Dark Souls. It does play very similar to Dark Souls. A pretty major feature of this game is world transition, I guess. So when you're running around like normal, like you're probably seeing right now, if I've edited this well, hopefully I have. When you're running around, you're in the world called Axiom, but your character is a lamp bearer, so they're always carrying this umbral lamp with them, and they can use the lamp, they can raise it up to peer into the umbral, kind of like a shadow world, and they can also use the lamp to fully transition themselves into the umbral world. So your game is split up between playing in the Axiom realm and playing in the umbral realm. And this is a huge feature. It plays a huge part in the game. Very, very major way of setting itself aside from Dark Souls. There's a lot of playing around between the two realms. A lot of times you'll come to what looks like a dead end in the Axiom world, and then you'll raise your lamp up, and you'll see there's like a skeletal bridge ahead of you, and so you can continue to hold your lamp up and slowly go across the bridge, or you can fully change yourself over to the Umbral world to get safely across the bridge if you want. There's loads of instances like that. It's really cool. It really is a very nice way of encouraging exploration and rewarding exploration. You'll also regularly find, not really gates, I guess gates or bars blocking off a path, but if you raise your lamp up, you'll see that you can now phase through them. So just another really cool way that they use the Umbral realm to further your exploration and gameplay. There's a ton to the Umbral realm. I'm probably not going to be able to get into all of it in this video because there's a lot to it. Another example is sometimes in the Umbral realm there'll be these, I think they're called like Umbral parasites, and there'll be these little blue glowy things that are kind of clinging to enemies, and they'll either be fully protecting the enemy in the Axiom realm, so you actually can't damage them until you've dealt with this parasite, or they'll be sort of half protecting them, where they'll recover the enemy's health if you damage them. So you'll have to raise your Umbral lamp while you're in the Axiom realm and hold it up and press the right R1 button, and that'll basically like suck the parasite off into your lamp and get rid of the enemy's guard. So just another example of how you use the Umbral realm in this game. I should say that raising your lamp and choosing to go into the Umbral realm isn't the only way you can get there. It's actually kind of used as a second chance at life. So if you're in the Axiom realm and you take lethal damage, it knocks your health down to 0, you fall to the ground for a moment, but then you actually rise back up in the Umbral realm, and you do a little shockwave around you to just give yourself some iframes while you're kind of resurrecting, I guess. And it gives you a second chance at life. And when you raise up like that, you get some, I don't remember what they call the kind of health now, wither health. If you're familiar with the Bloodborne rally system, it's just health that you can regain by damaging enemies. I'm sure you'll probably have seen it somewhere in this video. It's when the right part of your health bar turns white, grey, and you can earn it back by damaging enemies without taking damage yourself. And as you're wandering around in the Umbral realm, you'll also be able to find these small little idols, I guess, on the ground, and if you interact with those when there's no enemies around, you will exit the Umbral realm and be back in Axiom. And so as long as you have multiple of these exit points, you can go back and forth between the two realms like a decent number of times. So you can actually technically be killed multiple times in one level, like between resting at bonfires, and still not fully die, because you'll resurrect in the Umbral realm, then you'll warp yourself back to the Axiom realm, and you can repeat that a couple of times as long as you've got a way to get out of the Umbral realm. Speaking of bonfires, they are called vestiges in this game. They're bonfires and also lore points. They're how you level up. If you rest at them, it resets the world around you, all the enemies respawn. You know it if you know Dark Souls. From my experience, these are not paced particularly well. I've found multiple instances where there's been huge gaps between two of these vestiges, two bonfires, and I've thought I must have missed one somewhere, because this is a ridiculously long time to go between a checkpoint. and I've looked it up a couple of times, and I've definitely not missed some of them. I might have missed a couple, but there definitely are instances where there's huge gaps between these vestiges, and that feels really bad. An interesting quirk and a way around it is your character is, or will, throughout your playthrough, will find these items called vestige seeds. And what these are temporary placeable bonfires, I suppose. As you're wandering around, you'll sometimes see these little patches of flowers, and when I'm playing on PS5, my controller will vibrate a little bit, and your lamp will glow in the bottom right. And what this means is you can raise your umbral lamp and place a vestige seed, which will let you place a temporary bonfire, a temporary vestige. And so you can only have one of these active at a time. It'll stay active if you close the game or whatever, so like as long as you don't place another one, whatever the last one you placed will always be there, and you can warp to it, you can level at it, you can do anything you wanted it, like it's a real bonfire. So that's quite a neat idea. I did find, I think I definitely would have preferred more regular vestiges placed in the world instead of feeling like I had to rely on kind of, if there was like a big gap between two vestiges, I didn't want to feel like I had to use one of my vestige seeds, because they're decently rare, to make my own like midway vestige. A part of this system that I really despised was it felt like the devs would often troll you with some of these vestige seed bed placements. Multiple times I would be working my way through a level, out of healing, a lot of souls with me, don't want to risk dying and have to repeat it all. And it would be a long time since my last proper vestige, and I would see a vestige seed bed, and I'd think, okay, I've got like 3 vestige seeds, I guess I'll use one so I don't die and lose all these souls. So I'll put my vestige seed in, I'll make my temporary vestige, rest up, level up, and then I'll set off again, literally turn the corner, and there'll be a proper vestige there. And that happens multiple times, and I can't think of any reason they would make that happen except just to troll the player, because it feels so bad to use one of your precious items and then find out if you just risked it and pushed on a little bit further, you would have had a regular vestige without having to use one of your seeds. So yeah, I absolutely despised some of the vestige seed bed placements. I made a bunch of notes on my phone while I was playing the game. I didn't even say how long I played the game for. God damn it. At the time of recording, I've played the game for 23 hours, which kind of surprised me. I should say that I'm looking at the Steam page right now, even though I've played the PS5 version. And it's currently sitting at mixed reviews. There's a lot of negative comments, there's a lot of positive comments. So I was looking forward to this game before it came out. Graphically, it looked great. Dark fantasy is really my kind of thing. Love a good Souls-like, so I was interested in it. It launched, it had technical problems, it had mixed reviews. I thought, oh well, I'll maybe check it out at some point after it's had a bunch of fixes and been polished. But then I got sent my review code, so I was like, okay, I better check it out on PS5. And so I wasn't expecting to play it for too long, really. I was planning on, because I didn't think I would love it. I didn't think I would really enjoy it too much. So I was planning on trying to play like 4 or 5 hours or something. And I got to the first boss, and I'll talk more about the first boss in a little bit probably. And it was a real struggle, and this is someone, I've got, like 1,000 hours between Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, and Elden Ring. I've got a lot of experience with Souls-likes, and I was struggling so much on the first boss, and I was like, okay, man, if I don't get through this first boss soon, I'm just going to call the video, or I'm going to call playing the game, do a quick video saying I tried it, didn't like it, and, that'll be that. But I managed to get through the first boss, and I was very frustrated with a lot of the game. Multiple times I was like, okay, I'm just done with it now. But I kept going back to it. I just kept playing it. I kept thinking about it. I don't entirely know why, because I've been probably frustrated more often than not while playing this game, but I keep playing it. I can't fully explain why I enjoy this game as much as I do, and I'm gonna try and work it out as I'm doing this video, and this video might end up being quite long because I've probably got a lot to talk about. But yeah, I blitzed past the first like 4 or 5 hours that I was planning on doing it, and right now I've played 23 hours, and the reason I'm doing my video now instead of earlier or at the end, because I think I got to about 12 hours and I was thinking, right, obviously I've enjoyed this game to an extent, I think I can talk about it now. But I was looking through the Steam reviews, and there was one review who said that he liked the game at first, and then he got to a certain level, and he stopped playing at that level. And I was thinking, okay, you know, I'm also like this guy, I liked it in the early game, I should probably try and reach this level and see if I still like it. And at the time of recording, I'm more than halfway done that level he was talking about. Still enjoying the game. In fact, I'm enjoying the game a lot more, probably post 14 hours. I think that the first 14 hours was a lot more frustration, but my last like 8 or so hours of playing the game have all been quite fun. I can definitely talk about some negatives though, and I already have a little bit in this video. I think I've balanced it out a bit. It's kind of hard to know what is its biggest downfall, I guess. One of the biggest for me is the lack of enemy variety. After about 3 or 4 hours, you've probably seen every enemy you're going to see in the game, with the exception of bosses, obviously. Regular enemies get repeated in every single level, and they basically they're the exact same enemy model, no reskins or anything, no way to tell them apart. If you took like 5 random singular enemy types from random levels, put them side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart. The only difference is they're tankier. They have more health, they do more damage, but otherwise they look exactly identical, same attack patterns and everything. And that's really, really disappointing, because the environments look excellent, there's great variety in the environments and the levels, but you'll find yourself walking into this cool new environment, this cool new level, and you'll instantly see 2 enemies that you've been seeing for hours in other levels, and you're like, man, really? Just today, I reached a really cool snowy area, and just seconds after entering it, bam, there was 2 exact enemies I'd been fighting, literally in the level before. And it's that's really disappointing. On a similar topic, with reusing enemies, bosses get reused as regular enemies later in the game, which I think is awful. Some of the bosses, the first time you see them, they're pretty cool, but then you start seeing them as literal just regular enemies later in the game. There's been, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like 3 or 4 instances of this already, and it's really annoying, and it really showcases how little enemy variety there was in this game. I don't know if that was part of getting the game rushed out at all, because, like I said, the levels and the environments are all really nice and varied. But yeah, just using the same regular enemies over and over, and then even reusing bosses as regular enemies is pretty ridiculous. On the subject of bosses, most of them aren't great. Definitely in the early game, I was telling a co-worker, because he was asking about the game, and I was like, I think I've hated every single boss I've fought so far. And one of the main reasons for me hating every single boss is that so many of them love to stall, which is where they go invincible. One of the bosses you fight is just a guy with a spear, but he starts the fight on a horse, some kind of spirit horse, and he starts the fight by just riding around the arena. You can't attack him at all, and throughout the fight he does this multiple times, and it's just so annoying to have to wait around for when you can damage a boss. And there's sometimes ways around it, but it happens multiple times with multiple different bosses that they all have some kind of stalling mechanism, and they're very, very infuriating to fight. Yeah, I don't think I'll get into the bosses too specifically, but yeah, they're really frustrating. I definitely did not find myself having fun with most of the bosses until I found a certain item, which is a poison gas grenade, basically, which can trivialize a ton of bosses. So that's kind of fun. Okay, as I mentioned, probably like 10 minutes ago now, I made some notes on my phone while I was playing the game, and I'm just going to go through some of them right now. There's really good variety on the starting classes. There's lots of different ones to choose from. And they have this really cool feature where they'll tell you if some of the classes are advanced classes. The game does have magic and casting, and it indicates that a couple of those magic-based starting classes are more advanced. I really wanted to try one of them as my first build, but I thought, okay, I'm an advanced Souls-like player, but haven't played any Lords of the Fallen, so I'll just do like a basic class. And also the version I got was the deluxe edition, which comes with a special class that's exclusive to the deluxe edition. Kind of weird, I think, but like the deluxe edition isn't very much, and you get other stuff with it. But yeah, kind of puts a bad taste in your mouth that a class is locked behind a microtransaction, basically. But I thought since I had the deluxe edition, I should try that starting class, which is the Dark Crusader. Not normally the kind of class I would go for. I'm more partial to dex builds, fast, speedy, kind of lighter weapons, but high DPS. The Dark Crusader is a strength-based class, and obviously I could have changed it as I went along. But 23 hours later, I am purely a strength build, which is a build I haven't done in Dark Souls in years, like possibly not since Dark Souls 1. I don't think I ever did it in 2 or 3 or Elden Ring. But here I am, just a bulky lad with a massive hammer, just smashing enemies. So kind of fun that I've done a different build than I normally do in this game. Some of the actions you need to do, especially with the Umbral Lamp, take a lot of button combinations. It's like you hold L2 to raise your lamp, and then you can hold L2 and square, this is on PS5, to transition to the Umbral Realm. You hold L2 and R1, you do your Umbral Suck to get the parasites off enemies. L2 and R2 lets you Soul Flay. There's just a lot of button combinations, and it's really confusing at first. The tutorial area throws so many pop-ups and so many different systems at you all at once at the start. They pace it a little bit, but there's a ton thrown at you in the first couple of hours. It's very overwhelming. I'm just going through my gameplay notes right now, and then I'll talk a bit about the technical side and the performance side afterwards. Like I said, the first boss of the game is ridiculously hard. I think now that I've got 23 hours in the game, I think I could probably beat her pretty easily. But like I said, I've got 1,000 hours in FromSoft Souls games and Elden Ring. And the fact that I was completely stumped on this first boss was very surprising to me. You can even summon an NPC for free. You don't have to use an ember to make yourself human or whatever. You can just summon an NPC helper who does okay. But yeah, the first boss is way, way stronger than I was expecting, and really almost made me give up. I was very, very close to giving up on the game because I was stuck on this boss. I did the classic Dark Souls thing where you die to the boss multiple times in one night, think, right, I'm done for the day, screw this, and then come back the next day and kill the first boss on your first try, and that definitely happened with this one. But I think it's too hard a boss for a first boss. Something I should note, I guess, is that at launch, one of the biggest complaints was that all the bosses were too easy, and there's been multiple patches since the game came out, and I don't believe that's the case anymore. Some of the bosses are pretty easy. I think there's been 3 bosses I've killed first try, like first time I ever ran into them. But some of the bosses definitely feel pretty tricky, so I do believe some of the patches, and I'm sure like they explicitly said in some of the patch notes that the bosses have been improved, I guess, to make them stronger, better, or just a bit harder. A real annoyance is that major bosses, like in Dark Souls, will have a cutscene when you meet them, but the annoying thing is that the cutscene plays every time you re-enter the boss room to fight that boss. It's not just the first time you run into them, it's if you die to that boss and you go back through the fog wall, you have to watch the cutscene. Well, you can skip the cutscene, but it's just annoying that it plays every single time. I mentioned the poison gas grenade earlier. Throughout your playthrough, you'll find different throwable weapons, and you can basically equip your throwing hand as your throwable category, I guess. And you can, in your throwable hand, you can equip 3 different throwables. So like I've got like I think I've got a hatchet, some kind of paladin weapon, or throwable paper that heals, and also a gas grenade. But also, like I mentioned, you can cast spells, you can equip catalysts to be able to use magic, but annoyingly, the catalyst to be able to use magic has to go in your throwable hand slot. So basically you have to choose between casting magic and being able to throw items or throw weapons. And so like quite early on, I realized I was only a couple levels short of being able to do some basic like paladin themed spells. So I put those levels up, and then I equipped my catalyst, and I was like, oh, I can't throw things anymore. And you can, if you go into your inventory and unequip your catalyst, you can go back to throwing things, but it's just very finicky to have to do that, and I don't think I've used my catalyst for the last like 15 hours or something in the game. Like I only use the throwables, so definitely a shame that you have to choose between the two. Throughout this video, you might have noticed instances where if you kill an enemy, they drop a little purple mass near them. Those are their souls, or those are the souls that they've dropped. In Dark Souls, you kill an enemy, your number of souls goes up. In Lords of the Fallen, you kill an enemy, your number of souls goes slightly up, but you also have to run into these purple blobs to get the full souls value. And it's just really annoying. It's very, very annoying, because if you're quickly running through an area, you can absolutely miss out on getting the full value of souls that you should have gotten, because you might have missed, you might have not been quite close enough when the enemy finished dying, where the little purple soul thing got sucked into you, so you would just miss out on a couple hundred souls or something. So I guess having the souls drop like that sets the game apart, but it's very, very annoying, and I don't like that. Boss runbacks are definitely a thing in this game. Elden Ring added the Stake of Marika system, where there's pretty much always a Stake of Marika very close to a boss, so if you die on the boss, you can choose to respawn at the last bonfire or at the Stake of Marika, which will usually just be a checkpoint you can respawn at right outside the boss wall. Going from Elden Ring to Lords of the Fallen is very hard, because there's only resurrect at the last bonfire you rested at. Most of the boss runbacks are really annoying, and they just have you running for quite a long time sometimes. So just annoying that those are there in this game. All right, let's talk about the game technically for a bit. A lot of the mixed reviews for the PC version are not very good performance-wise. I can't speak to the PC version. Normally I would be playing this on PC, but when I was sent my code, they'd run out of PC versions, PC codes. So I said, fine, I've got a PS5, I'll play it on PS5. So I'll be talking about the PS5 performance, which is not something I normally do. like most PS5 games, there is the performance mode and quality mode toggles. I have not played a second of this game in quality mode because that locks it to 30 FPS, and I'm never going to play a game at less than 60 FPS. So I've played the whole thing on performance mode, which ideally is played at 60 FPS. It hits 60 FPS a good amount of the time, but even without a frame rate counter, because I can't monitor frame rate on my PS5, I can definitely see it dipping sometimes. The first boss fight is a great example. I know Digital Foundry did a video on the PS5 performance, and in their video they showed that the first boss fight drops down to around 40 FPS. I think it might have been tweaked or it might have been patched a little bit when I played it, because I don't think it got quite that low. But that was 20 hours ago when I was playing that boss, so I'll have the footage on screen at some point. And yeah, you can easily see sub 60 FPS, closer to 40 FPS dips in some boss fights. Another area is when you're in the Umbral Realm. There's a lot more particle effects and stuff, and a lot more on screen. You can definitely see the frame rate drop quite a bit in the Umbral Realm, annoyingly. So it targets 60 FPS in the PS5 performance mode. Doesn't stay there 100% of the time, not even close to 100% of the time, but it gets there some of the time, but definitely a lot of dips. As well as the performance quality mode switches, there's also 3 other settings. You can turn off motion blur, chromatic aberration, and I don't quite remember what the third one is. It'll be on screen. Might have been film grain, but really, really excellent that you can turn those off. Very pleased to see those. On the PS5 version, when you equip new armor, it takes a second to apply, which really surprised me. That's something I'd expect from a lesser platform, like when I was looking at Hogwarts Legacy on the Switch. There was like a 2 to 3 second delay every time you switched an armor piece, a clothing piece. So to see a similar thing in this PS5 game was very surprising. Oh, another area that the frame rate drops is in the hub area. Skyrest Bridge, it's called, like your Firelink Shrine or whatever, your round table hold. Definitely some frame drops in there. I don't think it stays at 60 at all when you're in there. Some cutscenes look atrocious. I'll have it on screen now, but you can hopefully see in this cutscene that it's really choppy. Some of the textures just haven't loaded or something. It's just quite surprising to see these kinds of issues on a console game. Like, obviously, PCs are kind of hard, are harder to plan for, because pretty much everybody has a different kind of build. Everybody's got different components in their PC, so you don't know what part is gonna make some part of the game be weird. But PS5s are all the same, and so seeing some of these issues in a console version is very surprising to me. Speaking of textures, there's some really, really weird pop-in on the PS5 version. I'm going to show it on screen here. I just captured a clip recently where you can see this tree trunk just pop little parts into being as I get closer, but I don't even have to get very far away at all for it to just disappear. It's very, very surprising that this is an issue in a console game and sometime after launch. Well, there you go. Those are all my notes. This video is probably going to be pretty long. I thought it would, because there's something about this game that keeps me playing it, but I've also been very frustrated for a lot of my playtime. So I definitely needed to just talk about it quite a bit, I think. I really wasn't expecting to play 23 hours of it. I wasn't expecting to finish it. I'm sure I'm going to finish it. I think probably at some point I'll get it. I'll rebuy it myself on PC, because I haven't been able to play any multiplayer at all because I'm playing on PS5 and I'm not going to pay for online, because that is insanity. I would literally rather rebuy the game on Steam so I can play the online for free. So yeah, I might do that at some point down the line, but so far, yeah, I've just been playing solo. A couple of bosses so far have had NPC summons, which has been nice, but I've definitely done most bosses by myself, which has been okay, if not quite frustrating. I believe on the Steam Autumn sale, the Lords of the Fallen was on sale for 34% off. So regular price for me is 80 Canadian, but in that sale it was down to $53. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good price for this game, I'd say. It's got its problems, but I'm mostly enjoying it. Like, it's frustrating at times, but like I said, I just keep playing it, keep going back to it, keep thinking about it when I wasn't playing it. So if you can grab it at like 30% off, I'd say that's a pretty decent price for it, honestly. Like, there's a good amount to this game. How long to beat says, I think just like the main story will take about 30 hours. I'm thinking I think I'm decently close to the end. I think I've probably only got about 5 or 6 levels left. But I wanted to get this video done, especially because this video does have a deadline, and I thought this would take quite a bit of recording, a lot of footage to go through. It's going to take a lot of editing, so I wanted to get this video recorded now. If there's anything major that pops up before the end of the game, I'll put it in the comments probably, but I think my thoughts at 23 hours are probably going to be quite similar to my thoughts at the end of the game. Well, there you go. That was my very lengthy look at the PS5 version of Lords of the Fallen. Overall, I guess I would say my opinion on the game is mixed, but closer to positive than negative for sure. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!